This is a really excellent question about whether, in view of the amount of abuse of power that there has been, whether the right reaction to that is just to say, well, I don't want any power at all, to renounce it completely. And that would be to commit a huge philosophical error of allowing the abuse of something to argue against its right use, because it doesn't. Basically, the abuse of power argues for the right use of power, not the renunciation of power altogether. It's always perilous. I think that leaders within the body of Christ need to take much more seriously the danger of the misuse of power. And the answer to that is not to try to give it up. It's not to renounce it, because that doesn't solve anything, because we're still exercising power even if we think we're not. The answer to it is the conscious exercise of power with humility, with servant heart, the conscious releasing of those whom we're leading so that they are growing and flourishing and making their own faith decisions in an environment of grace where they're free to fail. I wonder how many leaders actually allow those whom they're leading to be free to fail. And yet that's exactly what we see Jesus doing. It requires the kind of leadership that is meaningfully accountable to other leaders, where others are asking hard questions of us. For me as a leader, for example, that means that I cannot lead in a vacuum. I cannot lead just on my own. And I need not to just have people who I give permission to critique me. I need to actively solicit their critique. I need to say to them, you must speak critically to me. And I think to create the kind of leadership environments then where people are getting feedback regularly, where there's some kind of shared authority as well. I think there's a great deal of safety in that kind of shared authority. But I think the overall answer to that question is no, we can never get away from the use of power, because we're always going to be doing it. Some of us by virtue of the personalities we've been given, but any time we influence another person, we're exercising power. So unless we lock ourselves in a room somewhere on our own, it's impossible to get away from this. So we simply need to face up to the dangers, face them honestly, face them biblically, and have people around about us who are helping us to actually live humbly through it, recognizing that we will fail. I think perhaps one of the best things that any leader can do, just as any parent can do, is be humble enough to apologize to those whom they're leading, apologize to our children when we get it wrong.